Back now in time to throw your hat into the ring here. We've read your emails and listened to the voicemails. It's time for you to play with the panel. Still with us, Rachel Maddow, Richard Wolff, Eugene Robinson, and Joe Scarborough. First up, Howie in Alaska says the gender and race debate is driving Democrats away from the party. Listen.
From Anchorage, Alaska, the way the Democratic Party is arguing right now, I feel, and everybody that I know feels, that they want to vote Republican just to get away from a racial or a gender type situation.
Rachel, it does underscore the point here that we are not debating issues at this point. Every bit of debate on that appears to have occurred.
It does beg the question as to whether or not a white man has a race or a gender. You can't necessarily abandon either of those categories by just picking a white guy. But yeah, I mean, the problem on the Democratic side right now is that it is personal and petty and pointless and divisive, and that it has no end game that comes up with a credible general election strategy for either Democratic candidate. They've got to end it, and they've got to start turning their attention to Mr. John McCain.
Jesse in Freeport says the number of people changing party affiliation in Pennsylvania is only good news for Obama. In Pennsylvania, a record number of Republicans have changed their party to Democrat. If anyone thinks that any of these Republicans are going to vote for Hillary, they are sadly mistaken. It is common knowledge that Republicans do not like Hillary Clinton, so these Republicans who have changed their party are going to vote for Obama. Are these Obamakins, Joe?
Well, I tell you what's common knowledge right now is that a lot of Republicans don't like the Republican Party. There's been a growing disenchantment for years now. Republicans haven't been acting like Republicans since they controlled Washington, D.C. So I think you're going to have a lot of Republicans bolting from their party to vote in a Pennsylvania primary that finally matters. And this is the good news. This is a silver lining for the Democratic Party. It's just been a historic number of Democrats have been going out to vote in the caucuses and the primaries. A historic amount of money being raised. Barack Obama has raised more money in February than John McCain's raised in the entire campaign. The excitement is still on the Democratic Party. If they can put identity politics behind them, 2008 is going to be a huge year for the Democratic candidates.
So it would be great, of course, if they are raising all that money and not also spending $1.5 million of it a day attacking each other.
Right, but the reason they can spend all that money is, though, because the way Barack Obama is using the Internet, he just goes to the Internet, pushes a button. He's got to, get 1 million contributors. They give $25. You're in pretty good shape.
And you also, Rachel, you don't have people sitting on the sidelines. To Joe's point, in Pennsylvania, you have record turnout. You pointed this out last night. Yeah. These are not people who are sitting out because they're turned off by the race. They are still engaged.
No, that is still the silver lining. I mean, the enthusiasm is still there. But at the same time, the warning signs are also there, like with this new Gallup poll where Democrats are saying they hate the other candidate so much they'd vote for McCain instead if their chosen candidate didn't win. We've still got positive signs for Democrats overall, but the warning signs are getting louder and louder and louder.
The question, I think, Gene, is also, what about Obama's supporters? The numbers don't reflect this as well, but Obama's supporters could certainly be turned off if all of a sudden this dynamic changes and what they thought was a dynamic of him coasting to victory gets upended.
Sure, a lot of bad things could happen, and that's one of them. From the Democratic Party standpoint, my suspicion is that unless something really awful happens between the two candidates, all out kind of rip out his or her throat kind of warfare, I think most Democrats are going to come back to the Democratic nominee. I don't actually believe they're going to vote for John McCain when the time comes, because there are going to be big issues like health insurance, like the war, a bunch of issues on which there is a very stark disagreement. And so now, if 1 in 5, voters for either side is saying that they're not going to vote for the other one, I don't think it's going to be that. But even if it goes down to 1 in 10, that could still be a problem. So there's going to be a lot of mending to do.
Moving on, Michelle thinks she knows why the superdelegates at this point are not flocking to Obama. I think the superdelegates are scared of the Clinton political machine. If Barack was sitting in Hillary's shoes right now, there would be superdelegates coming out of the woodwork to endorse Obama. Joe?
I think really the superdelegates, just like a lot of people in the media, are afraid to bury Hillary Clinton politically because we remember what happened in New Hampshire. We already buried her in New Hampshire, and she came back and proved us all wrong. And then we buried her before Super Tuesday, and then she came back and proved us all wrong. And then we buried her again, and then she came back with Texas and Ohio, proved us all wrong. This is a woman that you dismiss at your own expense, at your own risk.
What I think is interesting about that, Richard, is you talk to top Obama advisors, and they'll talk about all the private support they have among superdelegates, but they can't get the floodgates really to open. Sure, they've had a lot of them come their way since Super Tuesday, but they can't get the floodgates to open. Why? Because they're being told they don't yet see a clear winner.
Sure they don't. I mean, look, there are still primaries out there, and getting some of these people who are pretty scared about their own place in the party, their own political future, that's not an easy thing to do. Having said that, look at the flow of superdelegates since Super Tuesday. Massively in Obama's favor. That's got to be worrying for the Clintons. Just one point, Joe. We didn't bury Hillary Clinton. People on TV may have done, but the reporters didn't.
Oh, well, you know what? You are so great. I am so sorry that I underestimated you or whatever George Bush was saying. Let me tell you something. Everything I read, every political analyst I read the weekend before New Hampshire said that Hillary Clinton was facing her Waterloo. So, Richard, if you didn't do it and if Newsweek didn't do it, congratulations.
I'm just saying.
You were alone in the crowd. And, Richard,
Joe?
what I'd really like to know is what the hell is behind you, because it moves every time you move. It's a blue blob. Move to the left and right really quickly.
Yeah, right.
Look at this, David. Move. Please, Richard. Please, move. What is that? It moves with him.
What is that thing?
He's hanging from a bridge. He's hanging from a bridge in Montreal.
What is that? Seriously, what is the blue thing behind him?
We are just lucky to have him with a finger on the pulse of the Canadians. Our last emailer tonight, Barry in Tennessee, wants to know if the Maverick will surprise everyone with his VP pick. He writes, with John McCain's past flirtation with the Democratic nomination for VP in 2004 reports that he thought about leaving the Republicans possibly in 2001, what is the likelihood that John McCain might choose Hillary Clinton as his VP choice if Barack Obama becomes the Democratic nominee? That is some pretty creative thinking out there, Gene.
I would say the likelihood is nil. It makes my head hurt to try to think.
Just to try to think
yet
about
another
it. You never know. It could become a talking point by tomorrow.
Okay. I'll tell you this, though. I would not be shocked if he named the guy that he dragged around the state of Florida in the first closed Republican primary he had to win, Joe Lieberman. He takes him to Florida. He takes him over to Israel. It's a long shot, but I think John McCain is going to go for a very surprising pick.
A bipartisan ticket between the Republican Party and the Connecticut for Lieberman Party. That would be very impressive.
It puts Connecticut and some other states in play and helps him in South Florida.